Inspired by the Italian Renaissance, Mary Trigiani hopes to inspire a new kind of rebirth in today's world. Mary is a business executive and management advisor. She helps convert ideas, concepts, visions, and strategies into compelling market positions, powerful messages, and practical implementation. Besides having run her own consulting practice, Mary has had stints with a global professional service firm, a community bank, and state government. I am pleased to introduce Mary as our next speaker. Enjoy.
Have you ever stood in front of a work of art and found yourself transfixed? It happens to me when the work is from the Italian Renaissance period. I remember the first time I stood in front of a Botticelli, the feeling of awe. That first-time sensation of being blown away has evolved. When I look at his work now, I find myself in new territory. Wondering at the sheer talent, yes, but pondering what was happening around him to feed such a marvelous outcome. Art historians know his canvases represent more than technical achievement. The accomplishments of Botticelli and other Renaissance artists were shaped by the context of the time in which they lived, shaped by a pursuit of relevance that didn't compromise their individuality. They produced works of art and buildings and processes that we respect and we use to this day. Books we read, theorems we study, discoveries we deploy. There were powerful patrons who paid them to do it. Still, these artists pushed the envelope, and their achievements remain relevant. They were innovators. Think of this. The Italian Renaissance lasted for roughly 400 years. Those centuries were marked by a succession of aftershocks, plagues, economic disruption, political shifts, human suffering at the hands of other humans. It was an ugly time. How remarkable that across a devastating period in European history, these works of art came to be. Even though challenge and destruction were swirling around them, the artists rose to their calling. They tapped the circumstances outside of their control to catalyze their work. Their accomplishments, and those of innovators in every field of that time, remind us that invention is possible in every type of situation, science and art and commerce, yet also beyond all that. In the 21st century, just as in the 15th, we know something about devastation of the body and the spirit, collectively and personally, around the world. We know something about ugly too. In America, we've come face to face with both the legacy and the contemporary actions that break promises and people. Financial, racial, gender, dogma. It's more than the rampant spread of physical disease. It's the realization that promises made about the inherent equality of people remain unfulfilled for many, and that an incomplete history has been told. Many of us believed that the birth of a nation in 1776, a nation for which the world had been waiting, solved all the problems that had been plaguing the planet for centuries. That the creation of self-government, calling for equality while articulating a system to do it, was enough. Maybe it's because the system did prove to be enough for many of us. Prosperity was earned by many hardworking people who thought, if I can do it, anyone can. So, many believed, decades after 1776, that the problems had been addressed, even in the face of other battles that had yet to be fought, a civil war about the buying and selling of human beings, women's suffrage, civil rights. I want another Renaissance. I want us to shift the focus from relying on the promise of fairness to making sure it's kept for everyone. I want us to rethink and redesign once and for all the underlying attitudes and processes that perpetuate inequity and inhibit progress. The word Renaissance has come to mean a period of time, yet it is actually a conscious agreement. A contemporary Renaissance begins with reality, acknowledging that many of us, especially in America, are living in a bubble of satisfaction, fueled by assumptions that everyone has the same opportunity, and if they do not, it's their own fault or their choice. We're emerging from the 2020 pandemic, fresh from the associated disruption and armed with the undeniable revelations gained from the experience. The new obsession is infrastructure. It's promoted as the answer to virus control, governance, employment, justice, safety. It's the umbrella under which we stand as we try to figure out what we missed. Like, how did this disease get ahead of society, and why did it take so long to move in front of it? Or why do so many people feel they don't have a chance to propel themselves forward, that the cards are stacked against them? Or, with all the resources being poured into justice and education, what are the reasons for inefficiency, bureaucracy, elitism, and acceptance of human-inflicted suffering? It's time to get real, to accept that we have a lot of work to do to make things fair, to articulate the problems quickly and precisely, and to lose no time in getting to the solutions. I appreciate all the lessons of the Italian Renaissance, so glorifying that period of time will not cut it. Think about what was acceptable: slavery, religious domination, impoverishment, cruelty. Again, many think our contemporary system has rendered these and other forms of unfairness obsolete. This is not the case. In some quarters, it remains acceptable to treat the races and the genders differently, to use power to hoard resources and to protect turf, to dominate, and to insist that tales of inequity and discrimination are fiction. Some things that could have changed and should have changed over the centuries did not. So the siren call to invest in infrastructure requires another obsession with solutions. This is a call to act, not to meander, to solve problems, not to keep them alive so we have something to do. To make a renaissance, we first must satisfy the base condition of being real. Then we use what we learned to unleash the key success factor, a focus on the solutions, not the problems. Infrastructure solutions should be long-term fixes, not short-term patches. Working in measurable increments is good as long as it yields measurable results. Infrastructure management should mean running projects that come to an end, not establishing institutions that live on in perpetuity. Bureaucracies are not long-term fixes. In my own life, my jobs have been in the realm of business. My work as a communicator and an advisor has required performing in a world of tasks completed, not just strategies conceived. I've worked inside a global company and in small businesses. I ran my own business. As a consultant, my practice shifted several times over in scope and in product. The biggest shift happened after the turn of the century. Yes, this century. Clients have asked me to help them with new forms of communication. I went from white papers and speeches to social media and startups. I had to adapt to find ways to improve and deploy my skills to new opportunities. Lately, the pivoting has even included roles in economic development and strategic effectiveness. Here's one big lesson I've learned. Growth comes in between the pivots. And job security is in what you deliver, not in what you take. The most profound, rewarding results happen when you can deliver alongside others who are fair, in teams that come together around a product, a service, or an idea. In well-run businesses, problems become products and services that make money. In well-run government initiatives, you see a return on investment of taxpayer dollars. Yet even better than the money thing, people get inspired by coworkers who help them focus on purpose, by managers who define and measure results and outcomes, by executives who invite performers of different backgrounds to integrate their work and their skill, by leaders who set goals in the context of a shared vision, a vision emphasizing fairness on a level playing field. Silicon Valley investor Ben Horowitz cites abundance and contribution as the two things that lead to happiness. He says abundance and contribution are fueled by courage, and he says courage is the most essential of all human virtues. These also happen to be the hallmarks of a renaissance. Summon the courage to confront reality. Perceive the world as abundant, with potential partners and teammates, not adversaries and competitors. Seek to contribute by delivering solutions. Let's return to Botticelli. Do you know what happened to him? Under the influence of a despot, he destroyed some of his own paintings in a bonfire. Here was the innovator who had mapped the intersection of the sacred and the secular, yet he caved into narrow-mindedness and pettiness that would have set the world back again if it had gone unchecked. Thank heaven that others had the courage to save the best of Botticelli's work, preventing the reversal of thinking for oneself, protecting the urge to invent, defying dusty ideas about truth and beauty. Suppression, superstition, and spite were overcome, but as we well know, we are never quite rid of them. The good news is, today's Renaissance can be built upon what we do with the good, the bad, and the ugly. How we open ourselves to do the true stories and to the knowledge accumulated since that long ago Renaissance. We have more, so our responsibility is to do more. The 2020 experience is leaving humankind with yet another invitation to innovate, to use the technologies in our possession to anticipate and to resolve situations before we're dominated and defined by them, to share success and to deliver consequences, to enable the creation of wealth, not merely its redistribution, to provide solutions. This is the moment, our moment, to seize connection out of tragedy, lessons out of pain, to snatch beauty out of fire of destruction, to honor our humanity and to make way for others, to fulfill the promise of fairness. Let's go make a renaissance.